Hi, this is Yvonne Bunn with Home Educators Association of Virginia. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be talking about homeschooling and answering some questions about how to homeschool, and especially if you're ready to start now in the beginning of the year. So I want to welcome you. I'm so glad that you can join us today for this time where we can answer some questions. We often answer questions online through email or even on our cell phones and message each other, but it's not often that we've had a chance to really to talk and answer questions that you have as we are going along. So I'm going to cover some things first, and then I'll look at your questions and see what we can do to get the answers to the things that concern you about homeschooling, especially about starting during the middle of the year. While we're doing this, I want to let you know that you can go to our blog post. If you go to blog at heav.org/blog, then you can find some information. We have a free gift for those that are joining us today, and you can register for that. We have a print HEAV manual, which has answers to just hundreds and hundreds of questions about homeschooling and how to begin homeschooling, from working with preschoolers and kindergartners to all the way through to how to prepare for college and what you need to do to get ready for the future for your children. So it's a great resource. We also have the CD that goes with that. So be sure to go over to blog at heav.org/blog and register sometime during this broadcast, and you can this will be open until Sunday, this Sunday, January 15th, so you can still register for that. So we hope you'll find the time to do that. So one of the main questions that we address during this time of the year, especially during Christmas, during the time that we are in the fall, is once the homeschool deadline has passed, and the homeschool deadline for filing a notice of intent is August 15th every year. Once that deadline has passed, can you begin homeschooling? And the answer is yes, you can. And the law provides for that in a very specific way. It says in 22.1-254.1b, it says, any parent who moves into a school division or begins home instruction after the school year has begun shall notify the division superintendent of his intentions to provide home instructions as soon as practicable, and shall thereafter comply with the requirements of this section within 30 days of such notice. So there's a specific law that allows you to homeschool after the August 15th deadline. So this is a time where a lot of people have had Christmas and they've decided that they're going to make the change now. They're going to go ahead and begin homeschooling now. So according to the statute that I just read, that's absolutely fine for you to do that. So let's talk about the two different situations, though, that we could find ourselves in if you are beginning to homeschool now. First of all, there would be families or parents who are new division residents, meaning school divisions, meaning that you have either just moved into the state of Virginia and you are a new Virginia resident, or you live in the state already, but you've moved to a different county or city. In that case, you're going to need to file a new notice of intent. And what you want to do with that is simply contact the superintendent's office, let them know by phone or letter, or you can file a preliminary notice of intent if you wanted to do that. But let them know that you're there, that you've just moved into their city or county, and you have 30 days after that time in which to comply with the homeschool statute. In other words, either file a notice of intent or write a letter showing how you've complied with the homeschool statute. The other group of people that would begin homeschooling now would be those that are current residents. You haven't moved, but you've just decided to homeschool right now. And so in that case, you're beginning mid-year, or right now, or anytime that you're ready to begin. So in that case, you want to follow the same exact procedures that we're going to be talking about for both groups. Those that have moved into a new community, a new school district, or those that have simply just decided to start homeschooling now. So what you want to do is download a copy of the Notice of Intent form. We have the Notice of Intent form on our website. I have a copy of one right here that I can show you. A Notice of Intent form is one page. It's very simple to fill out, not difficult, and we're going to go over this so that you can see what you need to do to comply with the law and what all of your choices are. You'd want to file this Notice of Intent. And if your child is in school and you're beginning to homeschool now and your child is already enrolled in school and you need to take them out of school, taking them out of a private school is relatively easy. You just notify them that you're taking your child out and you're going to begin homeschooling. So you would just simply withdraw your child. However, if you're going to be withdrawing your child and your child is attending public school, then we need to go over some things that will help you in this transition process. Hopefully there won't be any questions if you do that. I would recommend that you file your Notice of Intent prior to taking your children out of school. So you want to download the Notice of Intent that's on our website at HEAV.org. You can link to it in several areas of the website, but under How to Begin Homeschooling, there's a copy of it right there that you can link to. So before you give your notice that you are taking your child out of school, fill out the Notice of Intent form and submit it to your division superintendent's office. Now, the division superintendent may have a designated person that's in charge of homeschooling. In that case, you would simply send it to that person. We have a list of the superintendent's offices, their addresses, their mailing addresses, their phone numbers, and so forth on our HEAV website. So you can find the correct address there. So you want to make sure that you file your Notice of Intent and that you take it to the division superintendent or mail it to the division superintendent's office or the designated person. Now, I would recommend that if you take it to their office, which is the fastest way to get the process rolling, if you take it to their office, then you simply want to ask for a receipt when you hand it to the secretary or whoever takes it at the front desk. So you ask them to write a receipt and just acknowledge that they have received your Notice of Intent. That's proof that you have delivered the Notice of Intent, you have notified him of your intention to homeschool, and that's your record. And you want to keep this in a file with a photocopy of your Notice of Intent form. And this should have the date that they have received it. If you plan to mail the Notice of Intent, which will take a little bit longer, then I would suggest you go to the post office and that you would mail it return receipt. That will get to them within 3 to 5 days, and then it'll take a few more days to get the postcard back that says that they have received it, and it has the signature of the person that has actually accepted it in the office. So again, keep this in a file folder. This is your proof that you have complied with the homeschool law. So you want to make sure that you do that also. The next thing that you want to do is look at the Notice of Intent form. And on the Notice of Intent form, you'll see at the very top that you have a list where you can put all of the children that you're planning to homeschool and their ages. The law does not require that you put your child's birth date on a Notice of Intent form, or if you choose to write a letter, you can put all of this information in a letter. The law does not require you to use this form or any other form. But if you use this form, you simply will put the children's names that you're homeschooling and their ages. And then you have 4 choices. There are 4 ways that you can homeschool. And you want to indicate and show evidence of how you've complied with just one of these 4 ways that we're going to talk about. So the first thing that you want to do is look at option 1. Option 1 says a high school diploma, and this means either a high school diploma or a higher degree. So it can be a high school diploma, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a doctorate. It can be that type of certification, that type of evidence that you want to attach to this would simply be a photocopy. If you have your high school diploma or your college degree, it's on the wall, you can take it off the wall, photocopy it, reduce it, photocopy it, and attach it to this form. And that's the evidence that you have complied with option number 1. Regrettably, a GED does not work for option number 1. You can still homeschool, but you should use probably option 3 or 4 in lieu of option number 1. The second way that you can homeschool, if you prefer not to use option 1, if you are qualified as a certified teacher in the state of Virginia, then you can homeschool under option number 2. In that case, you want to include a copy of your qualifications, a copy of your teacher certificate should go along with this, and you would send that in to the division superintendent along with this form. The third option that you have to homeschool is if you provide a program of study or a curriculum that's delivered through either a correspondence course or some form of distance learning on the computer usually. And of course, many companies offer this, many colleges offer this at the high school level for high school as well as college courses, but you can sign up for this type of program. And when you do this, you need to show some evidence that you've complied you have an agreement with them and that they have either received your check by showing a canceled check, that they've cashed it, or a credit card receipt, or even a letter of welcome from the company will work. So any of those things you could attach for option 3. And then lastly, the fourth way that you can comply with the homeschool statute is to write a letter to the division superintendent indicating how you are able to provide an adequate education for your child. And this letter could be just simply 1 or 2 paragraphs. It doesn't have to go into tremendous detail, but you can say things that like, you know your child better than anyone else. You are aware of your child's learning style and learning needs, and you plan to implement certain programs in order to meet those needs, and so forth. And so you can submit that to the division superintendent's office in the same way by mailing it or taking it in. And just to let you know that the superintendent makes a judgment on how your letter is written. In other words, he's looking for good grammar, good punctuation, no spelling errors, good syntax, good sentence structure, things like that. So make sure if you use option number 4, because you can't use any of the other options, that you have someone proof it or spell check it for you, because that will be the basis of his judgment as to whether or not you are able to teach your child at home. And then of course you want to also include with this a description of curriculum. A description of curriculum is very easy. The law was changed. HEAV worked on legislation a number of years ago because there was some confusion from district to district about what a description of curriculum actually meant. And so the law was changed to indicate, and well, actually to clearly state, that a description of curriculum is limited to a list of subjects that you're going to be teaching. So that list of subjects is simply language arts, mathematics, history, science, music, art, Bible, whatever subjects that you're teaching your child. It's just a list. You can put the name of the child at the top of the page, and then you can list the subjects for each child underneath their name. And that's all that's required for that. You do not have to put textbook titles. You don't have to put any further description of what's included in your materials or what methods you're going to use. None of that is necessary. The law clearly says it's limited to a list of subjects that you're going to be teaching. So you want to do that. And then at the end of the year, by August 1st, the following year after you have homeschooled, you are required to turn in some type of evaluation to show that your child is making progress. And that could be a standardized achievement test, or that could be an independent evaluation, an evaluation that's done by a teacher, someone who's a certified teacher, or someone who has a master's degree in an academic discipline. Could be a doctor, psychologist, or someone like that. And they would write an evaluation of your child's progress from the time you began homeschooling for the year until the time of that evaluation. So you have to turn in some form of progress to the superintendent's office. The same person that you've taken your notice of intent to is the same person you're going to be mailing in the results which would be a photocopy of a standardized achievement test report, score sheet, or an independent evaluation. So those are the things that you have to do in order to begin homeschooling mid-year. It's really the same that you would use if you were homeschooling by the August 15th deadline. So it's the same thing. Make sure that you sign your notice of intent form. Under option 1, I'll go back and mention that under option 1, high school diploma or a higher degree, if the teaching parent does not have, which is usually the mother, does not have a high school diploma, but her husband does, then you can use the high school diploma of the husband, because the law says the parent. It doesn't say the teaching parent. So it can be either parent who has a high school diploma or higher. In that case, you could use your husband's diploma if you don't have one, and I would suggest you have your husband sign the notice of intent form also. But that is what you need to do in order to get started homeschooling mid-year. Remember to get a receipt for your delivery or mailing of your notice of intent, because that's your proof. The other thing that you need to do is to keep immunization records. Everyone has to keep that at home in a file in case the superintendent ever would want to see it. The law does not automatically allow him to look at your immunization records, but in case a question came up and he wanted to see it, then you're required to have immunization records at home. And of course the evidence of progress. And so that's the way you begin homeschooling. That's basically what the law tells us to do. And it's not difficult. We are happy to answer any questions that you might have concerning this. So let us know what your questions are, and we'll be glad to answer those. And in the meantime, if you would also go to blog at heav.org/blog, and you can register for a free HEAV manual, and comes with a CD. It's a $50 value. It has lots and lots of answers to homeschool questions from everything from beginning to end, and lots of suggestions about curriculum and learning styles. It's a very, very valuable resource. So I hope that that would be helpful to you also. So I appreciate you joining us today, and hope that this information has been beneficial, and we'll be answering more questions as we go on, and seeing what we can do to help you know how to homeschool. I think the main thing I'd want to say is know the law, know what your rights are as homeschool parents, so that you can be confident in filing your notice of intent, confident in withdrawing your child from school. One of the other things too that I need to mention to you is that when you file under option 4 and you're taking your child out of school, because option 4 is a little different and the superintendent needs to make a judgment about whether or not you are able to teach your child at home, it would be good to wait to get a response from the superintendent's office concerning option 4. That way you know that he has accepted your letter, and he has acknowledged that you're able to teach your child at home and you've met the qualifications. All the other options are automatic. You are not waiting for the superintendent's permission to withdraw your child from school. You're not asking his permission to do that. You're simply showing him how you have notified that you have complied with the Virginia homeschool statute. So that's an important thing to know about option 4. The reason I say that is because when you're withdrawing your child from school, you don't want any truancy issues to come up. Your child needs to be in school someplace, either public, private, parochial, or homeschooled. And so in this case, you're not waiting for his permission, except for option number 4, which is a little bit different. And so you may want to get a letter or some type of acknowledgement from the superintendent, and then withdraw your child from school, so truancy will not be an issue. Truancy fines are up to $100 a day and 6 months in jail. So we don't want there to be any questions about what you're doing. You want to show evidence that your child is in homeschool. So make sure about that. There's a question about being a state certified teacher. There are two issues with being a state certified teacher. I shouldn't say issues. There are two ways that you can comply with the homeschool law. One is to comply with the homeschool law, filing option or checking off option 2 on the notice of intent form. And the other one is under 22.1-254, under the compulsory attendance law, it says that a child can be taught by a certified tutor, and that is outside of the homeschool statute. So certified teachers have a unique situation. You can choose to homeschool either way. If you homeschool by filing a notice of intent form and you check the second option, certified teacher, then you are required to file the notice of intent form every year, just like everyone else does, by August 15th, no later than that date if you've homeschooled in the past. And you're also required to submit some form of evaluation by August 1st after homeschooling. However, if you choose to simply write a letter and comply with 22.1-254, which is not the notice of intent form, you need to write a letter. There's no form for this. And you indicate in your letter that you'll be teaching your children, or you could teach other children, someone else's child. You indicate who you are teaching, and you provide evidence of your teacher certification or your teacher's license. So you would include that with your letter, and you would also send that to the superintendent. The difference is when you comply with this law and not the homeschool law and teach as a certified teacher or tutor, which is the same thing, then you only have to submit this letter one time until your teaching license expires, and then you would do it again. So that could be up to 4 or 5 years, depending on your teaching license and when it expires. And so you would write another letter when it expires, and that could go again for 4 or 5 years. And the other difference is you are not required to turn in the results of any evaluation, no standardized achievement test, and also no independent evaluations. So you would just teach the children. And so it's really an easier way to do that. So you have two options if you're a certified teacher or a certified tutor. So it's completely up to you. The certified teacher option, if a parent wants someone else to teach their child, because the homeschool law is written for parents to teach their own children, the certified tutor option is really the only legal way another parent can teach your child. So that's something to look for. And of course, we have a list of certified teachers and tutors on our website under our counselors, teachers, and tutors section. And so you can find people that are in that that do that and that may be willing to teach your children for a fee. So you can certainly check that out. I am not able to see the questions very well on here, and so I don't know that I can answer very many of them. I think there's one question here that says there are so many testing options. I'm sorry, I can't see that on here. So try to see if there's a way I can do the screen so that I can see the testing, see the questions on here. Oh, okay. Beth says, there are so many testing end of the year evaluations to choose from. How can I narrow the list, or what criteria should I be looking for? Do you recommend any for third grader? Honestly, the tests are almost all the same because they generally cover the materials that are taught all across the United States in all basic public school systems. And so the level of work for most third graders is the same. They would introduce the same materials and cover it. Of course, there are different textbook publishers, but they're going to cover the same basic materials. So yes, there are a lot of tests out there to choose from. I think the main difference in the tests is there are some that are longer than others. There's some that may have more questions in each section than other tests. I would say probably the California Achievement Test may be a little shorter than other tests. It may not simply have as many questions on it. Their sections are shorter, so that may be something that you want to consider. The Iowa Basic, the California Achievement Test, the Stanford 9, the Stanford 10. Stanford 10 is an untimed test, but they're basically all the same. So there are some test prep companies on the website. In fact, we have a link to one of them that your child can take a practice test, and it's very short, just to kind of get a grade level to see what level they're working on. That may be helpful, but in most cases your children will do surprisingly well, maybe better than you even think they will on these tests. So I think that any of the tests are basically the same, and I really couldn't recommend one more than another one because it depends on your child. So let's see if I can. Oh, here's another question. Carol, you were wondering about writing evaluations for other homeschoolers. Are there sample letters for evaluating homeschoolers as a certified teacher? There are some sample letters out there. I believe we may have one on our website, but if not, I can send you one if you'd like to email me at support@heav.org. I have a sample that I can send you. There's several ways that a teacher can do an independent evaluation. And while I'm thinking of it, one of the questions that go along with that is, can I do an evaluation of my own children? And probably not. That would not be ethically acceptable because you have a vested interest in the success of your child. While a standardized achievement test is pretty cut and dry, and the computer company with the publisher grades the test, because we don't have any grades, parents don't have any of the test keys for any of these, of course. But an independent evaluation is a little different. So number one, you don't want to do your own child. But very often, we would suggest that a parent create a portfolio for a child who's going to have an evaluation, meaning that you would take the best language arts, mathematics papers from each week, put them in a notebook, put them in some type of three-ring binder that we'd call a portfolio. And you take the best papers that the best paper each week, and then by the end of the year, you'll have lots of papers for language arts and mathematics that the evaluator can go back and look at to see if the child has made progress from the beginning of the time you began homeschooling to the time of the independent evaluation. And so if he can see clearly that your child has made progress, in other words, he can do more now than he could at the beginning of the year, then the evaluator would write a letter, and he would indicate in the letter what his background is, an introductory paragraph, what the teacher's background is, what their degrees are in, and then also include certification document for a certification teacher, or perhaps a photocopy of the master's degree or higher degree. So you would do that in your introduction, and then you would simply state in the next paragraph how you've evaluated the child and the progress that the child has made. And you can give some specific examples that they can do this and this by the end of the year, which they could not do at the beginning. And you want to make sure that you include in your letter a statement that says that the child has made progress, because that's what the law requires, that the child is making progress. So that's always a good statement to include. Another way to do an independent evaluation would be to do some type of criterion reference test. And that would mean a test that the evaluator would look at the textbooks that the child has used or the curriculum, and from every other chapter or so, take out sample problems or sample test questions from the English or spelling or vocabulary, and make up a test, and actually make up the test right there on the spot, so that and they would evaluate it themselves, the answers themselves. And of course, in the letter of evaluation, you would indicate that you did a criterion reference test, and that the child, did very well on it, or the child, has made good progress and use the same statement that you did before. So there's several ways that you can do it. But I do suggest that parents who want to have an evaluation done connect with an evaluator early in the year, so that you can decide what information she is going to need to do an evaluation. And if it's not what you want for your child, then you get another evaluator, because that's completely up to you who you get to evaluate your child. So I think that'll, hope that answers your question, Carol. So let me see if I can, okay, see if there are any other questions down here that I might have missed. Okay, all right. Well, I hope we'll be able to get together again. We'll be talking about testing in the future and answering a lot more questions about testing and information and resources and things that you can do with testing. So I look forward to talking with you again, and thank you for joining us today.